Okay, page 758, verse 28. In the time of Cosmon, up to the 33rd year thereof, these things have come to pass. Thousands and thousands of men, women, and children have been quickened by Jehovah to signs and miracles, even as in the time of the ancients, and many of them have attained to Suis, seeing without corporal eyes, and hearing without corporal hearing, knowing things far and near by a sense not belonging to the corporal organs. And these people, being distinguished from others, are comprehended under the name Te, being the first fruits of heaven on earth in this day. And many of them have foresense or round about them, of such kind that the spirits of the dead can come to them and openly commune, proving themselves unto all who are willing to receive truth to be the spirits of friends and relatives deceased on the earth. I'm going to read it again. Verse 30. No, let me go to 29. Thousands and thousands of men, women, and children have been quickened by Jehovah to signs and miracles, even as in the time of the ancients. And many of them have attained to Suis, seeing without corporal eyes, and hearing without corporal hearing, knowing things far and near by a sense not belonging to the corporal organs. And these people, being distinguished from others, are comprehended under the name Te, being the first fruits of heaven on earth in this day. And many of them have foresense or round about them, of such kind that the spirits of the dead can come to them and openly commune, proving themselves unto all who are willing to receive truth to be the spirits of friends and relatives deceased on the earth. And the knowledge that cometh from the spirits of the dead proveth itself in many ways to transcend the knowledge of mortals, as is classed and distinguished from mortal knowledge by the word S, because it cometh from the unseen, which is one of the kingdoms of Jehovah. That therefore when S speaketh, it signifieth the highest and the combined knowledge that hath come to mortals in the time of Cosmon, from the wisest of the spirits who have communicated as foresaid. And since all wisdom cometh from Jehovah, whether uttered by a mortal or a spirit, so it is said he speaketh through them. Now when Te hath put away self, striving to come by his behavior to Jehovah, a new light dawned upon him. For as it was given to him to see the spirit of the recently dead, so by purification did he attain to intercourse with associative bodies in the unseen worlds. And these associative bodies, being exalted angels in wisdom and purity, speak of the first elements and not of the instruments used, because it is their mode of language. That is to say, for example, Jehovah spake through S, saying, where mortals and spirits of the first heaven would say the same thing, thus according to the accumulated testimony from the most advanced spirit world. What? Let me read that again. Let me go back up to 33. No, 32. No, 31. Okay. All this together. Okay. And the knowledge that cometh from the spirits of the dead proveth itself in many ways to transcend the knowledge of mortals, as is classed and distinguished from mortal knowledge by the word S, because it cometh from the unseen, which is one of the kingdoms of Jehovah. That therefore when S speaketh, it signifieth the highest and the combined knowledge that have come to mortals in the time of Cosmon from the wisest of the spirits who have communicated as aforesaid. And since all wisdom cometh from Jehovah, whether uttered by a mortal or a spirit, so it is said he speaketh through them. Now when Te had put away self, striving to come by his behavior to Jehovah, a new light dawned upon him. For as it was given to him to see the spirit of the recently dead, so by purification did he attain to intercourse with associative bodies in the unseen worlds. And these associative bodies, being exalted angels in wisdom and purity, speak of the first elements and not of the instruments used, because it is their mode of language. That is to say, for example, Jehovah spake through S, saying, where mortals and spirits of the first heaven would come say the same thing. Thus, according to the accumulated testimony from the most advanced spirit world, let man be wise and perceive that the Father standeth behind all and within all. For as he riseth out of individualities, becoming comprehensive in expression, so rise his spirit also. These things Tay perceived, and the Father came to him through S and unfolded the scroll of heaven. S said, traversely, as seen by man, the worlds are first the earth, then atmosphere, and then to the ether beyond. Jehovah commanded man to be brought forth on the earth and dwell thereon for a season, then to die and rise in spirit and dwell for a season in atmosphere, traveling with the earth daily and yearly, even in its journey. He who would know, therefore, that's good. Hold on. I'll go back to 37. As said, traversely, as seen by man, the worlds are first the earth, then atmosphere, and then to the ether beyond. Jehovah commanded man to be brought forth on the earth and dwell thereon for a season, then to die and rise in spirit and dwell for a season in atmosphere, traveling with the earth daily and yearly, even in its journey. Who would know, therefore, the rank of a man who will inherit in heaven He who would know, therefore, the rank a man will inherit in heaven shall estimate the comparative strength of spirit and the purity of behavior. Let me read again. He who would know, therefore, the rank a man will inherit in heaven shall estimate the comparative strength of spirit and the purity of behavior. If a man lives isolated on earth, laboring for self, he will be isolated in heaven and companionless. It was said in olden time, judge not, lest ye be judged. But I say unto thee, judge all men spiritually and corporally. But I say unto thee, judge all men spiritually and corporally, but hold thy tongue. Look into thyself to know how the Father judgeth thee by talents and by works. It's kind of what I was telling my 19-year-old yesterday when he was coming from his dentist appointment. You know, he's 19, but you know how sometimes teenagers think they know it all, right? And they ain't even really got out in the world yet. Angelique, shalom, shalom. Yeah, he kind of, although he has a little bit of wisdom about himself, right now saying you just got theory and observation, but you don't have experience. All the experience you got is here within this household amongst your cousins when you hang out with them. But you don't have the type of experience yet that your older son, our older son, your older brother Elijah has had. He's actually been out there in the world, right? He's created people that come from him, right? He got that type of experience and going away to college and intermingling with people from all over the world, right? So when you look at him, you know, you have to consider all those things and how he categorizes things. And that's what he's trying to share with Jeremiah. And Jeremiah just like, well, you just made the wrong choices. Granted, that's true in some cases, right? But Jeremiah just saying you just going to get out there. You just do it like this. Boom, 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 boom. Ain't going to be no mistakes. It's just going to be perfect because the theory tells me this is how it's to be done. I'm like, son, you sound like the people that work in the office that has no experience out in the field. Don't do that. We're trying to teach you. You need some field experience. All you got, you that person in the office with the computer. Well, the manual says do this. Y'all not doing it right. What you doing out there in the field? You know what? Y'all need to come into the office. We need to have a conference because this is, and the people out in the field, they mad with people in the office because they sit in the office and they don't know what in the world they're talking about, right? And we out here, we're working this manual and we're telling you this doesn't work. Listen. So I told him, I said, son, just hold your tongue and just observe some things, right? Until you actually get out there, just consider it and you hold it. I said, wisdom comes in when you learn how not to blab everything that comes to your mind, right? And sometimes he's in a habit of just letting everything go. I said, that doesn't show wisdom. He said, well, they need to know. If they're going off I was like, well, you think anybody, if somebody was talking to you that way, do you think that they'll listen to you? You going to get the attitude, right? Because especially you trying to remember my scientific know-it-all nephew, Jeremiah's 19, he's 21, right? They kind of like grew up together. Y'all remember Aaron. Let's go to some of the early videos. You'll see Aaron, right? But he's active duty military now, right? And he's a know-it-all, right? He's a nuke, right? He's a scientist in the Navy. He's still in school, right? So him and Jeremiah always be having these philosophy conversations. I'm just like, first of all, I think you both are before your time. I said, you guys are sitting here. I'm like, if somebody's just walking past and they don't know them, they be like, man, them guys are wise. I come in there and listen to this. I was like, you know what? This has got to be the dumbest conversation I've ever heard in my life. Ain't neither one of y'all been outside in the world. Y'all just theorizing on book knowledge. Listen. And they just, my nephew like, auntie, that was harsh. I said, no. Both of y'all are know-it-alls. Y'all think y'all know everything. And y'all ain't got the first bit of real life experience. Y'all just been in the house under our teaching and stuff. And it's a good thing. At least observe when you go out before you try and go out there and spew your theories to everybody, right? Consider the backgrounds they come from. I'm teaching them how to consider all things, right? Don't just tell people they done did it wrong or you screwing up in life. No, you have to consider all things. Keep your mouth shut. Wisdom comes in when you can learn how to hold your tongue. We was literally having this conversation yesterday on the drive, and he will talk your head off. Or my husband say, boy, he'll talk your ear wet. Listen, look. Yeah, philosophers of the mundane. You see, I like that. Philosophers of the mundane, they still growing. Listen. Okay, verse 40. It was said in olden time, judge not, lest ye be judged. But I say unto thee, judge all men spiritually and corporally, but hold thy tongue. Look into thyself to know how the Father judgeth thee by talents and by works. But above all things, observe the unseen causes that play upon thee, quickening thy memory and thy perception, for herein lieth the great secret of acquiring spiritual knowledge. I'm going to highlight this with my other highlighter. Listen, I'm going to read this again, because I think I missed something. I'm going to read this whole verse again, verse 40. It was said in olden time, judge not, lest ye be judged. But I say unto thee, judge all men spiritually and corporally, but hold thy tongue. Look into thyself to know how the Father judgeth thee by talents and by works. But above all things, observe the unseen causes that play upon thee, quickening thy memory and thy perception, for herein lieth the great secret of acquiring spiritual knowledge. Right? Okay, yeah, I get it now. Like I was telling my son, I was like, you have to you have to take into account those things that's happened. You have to take into account everything surrounding their life. Things that you can't see here on why this situation is happening this way, right? That's quickening the memory. Hold on. But above all things, observe the unseen causes that play upon thee, quickening thy memory and thy perception, for herein lieth a great secret of acquiring spiritual knowledge. Thou art a type of the world. Thou hast a daily life, a yearly life, and a cyclic life, the latter of which is first infancy, second puberty, third maximus, fourth old age, fifth death. A corporal world hath these, and she imparteth her periods to the people thereof. Perceive then, O man, to attune thyself to Jehovah is to become a prophet. To understand the kingdoms of the lower heaven is to know the appointments of familiar spirits and guardian spirits over mortals. Thus shalt thou perceive the first place allotted to them at the time of their death. But to understand the realms in Ethera, thou shalt discern the times of associative redemption of atmospherians. But to understand the realms in Etheria, thou shalt discern the times of associative redemption of atmospherians. For as there are spirits who are captains over a star, or the earth, or sun, so are there generals over the ethereal worlds, and yet beyond them great commanders over the vortices in the wide universe. As thou hast felt the cold breeze of the spirit circle made by the spirits in attendance, know there are those high raised in heaven in power and wisdom, whose presence fashioned the currents of the embryonic worlds and propelled them forth by a breath. They have others beneath them who are themselves gods and goddesses. But remember, O man, that in all the glories there is still one who is higher than all, even the person of all, who is Jehovah. That's good. Okay, we're going to read one more chapter and then we got to pause. These are pretty long chapters. Okay, so we'll probably be finished with this tomorrow. Okay, we'll be at Thursday, Friday, so probably into the weekend we'll be starting over. We'll see where we end up. Okay, page 758, chapter 6, or chapter VI in Roman numerals. The light of the following truths will be manifest. The light of the following truths will be manifest to him. Let him, on the other hand, shut himself up in denial, saying, I defy thee to prove the matter, and he shall not be enlightened. The light of the following truths will be manifest to him. Let him, on the other hand, shut himself up in denial, saying, I defy thee to prove the matter, and he shall not be enlightened. Okay, I think that was the way to read that sentence. Okay, I'm going to read it one more time. Okay. The light of the following truths will be manifest to him. Let him, on the other hand, shut himself up in denial, saying, I defy thee to prove the matter, and he shall not be enlightened. In the testimony of Jehovah, speaking through S, and by the Spirit is man quickened. As a man liveth on earth, acquiring perfections or imperfections in spirit, so will he enter the S world at death. Death is the severing knife which separateth the corporal man from the spiritual man. The former returneth to the earth, but the latter surviveth, and in time riseth upward. By death man suffereth the loss of companionship of mortals, but is quickened and united with those he loved before. A new world is open to him, full of light and splendor, having a fitness to his spirit, even more gloriously and real than the corporal world was to his mortal part. As a corporal man requireth corporal food and clothes with habitable place to live, so in like manner requireth his spirit, and is so provided with an atmosphere, but spiritually. The first habitable place in S is on the earth, and near around the earth, and mostly within the same house wherein he dwelt in mortal form. But the spirit is subtle and moveth, but not as corporal things move, having power and presence with friends and kin at remote distances, as if all was in one place, for of such is the nature of the S world. So a lot of times, if you have loved ones that pass, right, and those who are actually in tune with the spiritual realm, they can verify to you that the spirits of your loved ones that recently passed are still there with you. They are there even with you when you go to their funeral, right? They are present. They're absolutely present, right? You just can't see them, right? If you're spiritual and you have developed that sense, you can tell they're there, right? Some people can even communicate with them, right? But this goes into, I forget which book. It goes a little bit into detail about it. Especially if when they pass, if they were a spiritual person, meaning they truly walked in the ways of the Creator, right, and they were developing, they're not going to be stuck here that long, right, because they will ascend. As a matter of fact, it tells you, like, after your loved one passed for like 3 days, you can continue to pray for them, right, like 3 times a day, morning, noon, and at sundown. Sunrise, noon, and sundown. Yes, 3 days. But after the third day, the Father doesn't want you to continue doing that. Why? We find out a little bit later, because it will keep them anchored here, because most of them didn't want to go in the first place. So anything they can do to hold on to their loved ones, they absolutely will. But we're not to encourage that. We're to encourage them to continue to go on and grow on, right? We'll meet up with them sooner or later, right? But by the time we get there, I shouldn't get there and find out that you still been here. Like, sis, what you been doing all this time? I'm thinking I'm coming back so you can teach me. Look, you up here, you in the creation stages of stuff now, right? At least you should be making spiritual clothes or something. But you shouldn't still be down here, right? You should not be lingering around here, right? But I forget exactly which chapter where it goes into that, where it talks about, if somebody remember, post it. Yeah, Angelique, I felt my mama for 3 days and then boop, no more. Right? It's amazing. So yeah, I don't know exactly what, but if somebody know those references, put them in here and I'll reshare them in the community section. I may not have time first thing this morning to go look for them, but I'm gonna try and find them. I'm gonna try and find them all, right? Because it may be helpful, especially to those. Thank you, Oahspe College University. Thank you. You be coming through, bruh. Listen, yeah, okay. Thank you. Book of Divinity, chapter 3, 4, and 5. Thank you. Thank you. Summary. Okay, you did a video. I'm gonna post your video too. Summary of education. Yeah, and I think I'm gonna repost this because I know a couple people who've passed recently, right? And I think it'd be helpful. I'm not. Well, I know a couple of them come to my page from time to time, but maybe if I show up in the timeline, they might see it and they might click on it. At least I'll put it there, at least, so it can be, all right, son, it could be a comfort to them if they read it. Hopefully, that's what my prayer is, right? But thank you for that. I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna share it on Facebook and YouTube in the community section and in the comment section of both. Right? Okay. So, hold on. Oh, go ahead. Is it locked? No, it's unlocked. Go ahead.
But yeah, kind of wake up, sat down. This actually came in. It was like something you write down as a goal.
He get nice. Cool.
So, welcome to this.
That's why you're against the comedic system. Yeah, I don't. We even went through that little phase too. Right? Yeah, I agree with you on that. Oahspe College University.
Oh,
but you can find bits of truth in every place you go. But that's all I recommend, that you pull from different places. Get the truth and get on. Everything else, remember, I got matches. Ain't good for none but the 5. Listen.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yes, son.
Me and Aaron, when we have not debates. But
Hold on, wait. Was you watching my video upstairs?
Yeah.
What you about to say?
So me and Aaron was talking about like the whole, how me and Aaron had debates, right?
Okay, pause right there. Were you listening to this morning's video upstairs? Is what I'm asking you. You just woke up. That's what I figured, right? Listen, you see, that's crazy, right? I did just a whole little few minutes. I did a whole few minutes on him and my scientific nephew and their whole little philosophy conversations and stuff. And he come down here talking about the debates they be having.
I'm telling you, we went from the police all the way to breaking down science and what it is to, bro, I'm telling you, first of all, I debunked the whole Bible for him. And he was like, got a point. And I was like, because I had to bring you in. I said, even mama had to break it down. Like, bro, got that up out of the way. How the Bible is not like kind of an unreliable source, and how it jumps from here and there, how it contradicts itself. You can't base anything off that for the simple fact the whole book is an oxymoron. So we just leave that alone.
He's your my fault. He said the whole Bible is an oxymoron.
And nobody can say it's not. Read it. Because I'm telling you, once I found the first contradiction, I lost interest. It's no.
Well, at least see the matter all the way out. See why. See why it contradicts itself. That's my whole point of everything. What I'm trying to teach.
And I do see.
Don't just be like, it's trash, throw it away. At least if you're gonna have a good debate with somebody, at least figure out why. You have to know those points on why. Don't just throw it away, but like your book is garbage. You know,
not that, but I have been around the Bible enough where it's like I kind of already know the whole book. I don't know the whole book now, but I do know majority of it. For the simple fact, it's like it's been talked about so much around me. So many people, different points in the Bible. It's like kind of know what it's about and what it goes through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have the ability to pick up stuff like, I want to say by osmosis sometimes. Things that it's like I studied. Come on, take this. Yeah, you can end it. You know, and it I don't know. Each generation gets better, but they also, some of them, they come in where it seems like y'all getting a little bit dumber.
So look, this is the part right here.
In some areas.
This was a major point. So we was arguing about race. And then I got to a point, I said, Aaron.
Like the reincarnation, Dana, what do you mean you don't? I'm listening. What do you mean you agree with comedic system? But there are some points I don't agree with like reincarnation and stuff like that.
But there was,
Go ahead.
But, so with race and stuff, I went into detail with it. I said, Aaron, if we know we can find great minds amongst any race, and if we know racism is stopped as soon as a race start hating itself, aka white people, because we know white people is also against white people, and we know black people is also against black people. Africans really don't like American Africans that much. Europeans really don't like Americans that much. Racism stops completely, because racism means one against another as a collective. As soon as that happens, racism is no more a subject. It's stopped.
What do you mean when you what happens?
When racism is a thing, like when people say, "Oh, black people against white people, or white people hate did all this and it's race and they're racist."
Oh, I get what you're saying when you bring out the points where you got black people against black people and white people. It stops the whole racism. Okay, I get what you're saying. Okay,
it stops it completely for the simple fact. Racism, it's just hate amongst groups. If you get rid of that, because they start hating themselves, then that's when you have to dig a little deeper.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes. He said, racism is not even the point. He said, once you can squash that argument, now you got to get a little deeper, find out what's really going on. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's when I brought up the corporations of how they've been doing this for a long time. And I said, Aaron, you even brought up one. And I honestly don't know if they're alive and well. I don't really know. But how things are portrayed and stuff, it really does seem like it. And one of the groups is called the Freemasons. That's one of them. If they've been here for so long, you think racism, these guys are hands down, they use this stuff, they use tactics like this to get attention away from them as much as possible. They project that hate, they create it, and they send it out so they can make a smoke screen around themselves. And you can't tell me racism is not an awesome smoke screen to somebody that wants to destroy a system.
I cannot argue with that.
Like, and when he thought about it, I was like, yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? It's starting to make sense. And the thing is, we can't knock white people for what they do because they made some crazy structures. And also, back then, you can look at Nikola Tesla. This dude, some of his knowledge, yes, he did learn from others, but he never had that, oh, I'm going to hurt somebody else. This was a nice guy. This guy helped others, and he was silenced by his own people.
Yeah. It's like, he ain't falling in with what we want to do. We got to kill him. We're going to take his stuff.
Yeah, and then back then, he was on the verge of creating Wi-Fi and free energy.
Yeah, we would, we'd be like, yeah.
And free energy was cracked. He was just about to re-bring it out, but as soon as that point came, he got silenced immediately. Because if you have free energy, everything for them just stops completely.
Yeah, you stop the whole monopoly system, rich lording over the poor. They stop getting money. It's like, wait a minute, you offer this stuff to people free. Listen, that's what I'm telling you. Look, if they allow Nikola Tesla, if they would have allowed him, but it's other people coming, right? If they would allow that to go, and just imagine where that would have gone. By developing the free energy, they would then begin to okay, well, how is we pulling this? How is it free? Well, first of all, my G, you have it all in your body, right? It would literally liberate humanity, and we will grow in leaps and bounds spiritually. Then we would begin to understand that we don't even really need devices. Free energy. How is this? Our bodies are electric. That's what they're trying to hold on to all they can to keep not just certain races and groups of people. It's a small group of people that want to hold everybody in bondage. They don't want nobody to get free. And I really don't understand that, because if they free everybody free, it'll be a nice big happy world. Let's grow and glow up together. I don't understand why some people just want to harm other people and just like take everything, let me rule. I really don't understand that mindset of what I don't get it, y'all.
I honestly don't get their motives, but I've realized also what they do. As long with putting out their hate and stuff, they like to throw out points on different things. They'll let go of the truth.
Jedi mind tricks on you.
Yeah, they'll let go of the truth.
Sleight of hand.
They'll let go of the truth in different areas. So it's like you're supposed to learn something, but they'll leave this whole gray area and they'll release something else just to confuse you. Mm-hmm. So let's say somebody don't know Oahspe. You get somebody that don't know about this and you give them this, they're going to be like, what? And then they're going to shy away from it. So they know what they're doing. They're going to throw out bits of the truth to throw people off. Mm-hmm. And people think, oh, look what we just... No, they kind of purposely put it out there. Some things actually do get out and they have no control over that.
Yeah.
They're not that all big old, don't give them more credit than they have. But, yeah, that's what I realized. So some things I'm just like, unless I see those things in that subject like actually take place throughout life. And it actually has a law, then I realize, okay, this is something that I'm not supposed to get out.
Yeah. Yeah, see, Jeremiah's a child. Like, he'll read, and he does. He'll read, and he'll listen to an audible first, right? To save him time. Yes. Listen, but Jeremiah is truly of the mindset that why do we need the books? Can't we can just go meditate for a little bit and get that information, right? And he said that's a whole lot faster. That's the whole mindset of Jeremiah. He was like, why waste the time with that? And we can pull it directly from the ether. I'm just like, show me how to do that.
I do get the point of books sometimes, but it's just sometimes the time is just not there.
Yeah.
Like, I do get books, but sometimes the time is just not there. You need some other way of getting this stuff or information.
Right. I can't argue with that. He said sometimes books are okay. He said, but sometimes the time is not there, meaning you don't have time to actually go through a book. You need to be able to pull it immediately. Right? Yes, that direct inspiration. I'm just like, son, I'm working to get to where you at.
But this is the last point. I don't know. I'm just turn you off from that. I don't think that's the right word, but I don't know. You know.
Why are you saying here doing all this talking? I sure appreciate. Don't forget the appointment. We got to leave at like 11 to be there at the college at 12. Okay.
But I said something. Oh, we both agreed on the fact because we kind of see people like things might happen 1,000 years from now. I'm like, I don't know about that because this is the thing. We're about to go through what I like to call a second Great Depression, and that leads on. It's a domino effect after that because things just click into place. One. The outside of America
it'll look like a depression. It'll look like a depression for some people, but for those of a higher mindset and a higher light, it's a shifting of things again.
Yeah, they'll be safe, but there's so many things that you gotta take into account because we cannot forget about the world and what's happening. Okay. And how America literally has their hands. That's the reason why I keep my mind on everything else because it's like, yes, it is better to not think about it. But at the same time, you want to take these things into consideration because if you just up and forget about it, it might come to a point where it's like, dang, I didn't prepare fast enough.
So, wait, okay, I get that, right. Okay, I get that, the preparation with,
With a Great Depression, you get war. Mm-hmm. And with that war, you're probably going to get a civil war. So that's 2. So when
well, those are the sites. Look, Oahspe talks about that. We talk. Look, Jeremiah, he just pulls this. I'm going through the list. Okay, so we got this cycle. We got this. We're looking at the tablet of Iraq and Bagala.
We got Russia, China. They don't like us. They really don't like us. This Great Depression is a weak point. They gonna feel like,
listen. You know what? I'm just gonna resign. Come here, son. Come here. Come here.
No, you got that.
Come here. This I'm about to say. This your real teacher. Let me go sit down. You come on. Come.
I'm just the one that dropped Cliff Notes.
Listen. Look, I'm still, give me the book, I need the book, and he just like, people gonna meditate, okay, let me solve this problem for you. I'm just like,
I can't wait till you go to school.
Well, I just told him, listen, we need to be in college at 12. Look, finish this after the paperwork. Okay, look, all right, y'all, let's finish this. Look, y'all, so y'all get a little bit of taste of what we talking about, right? And that, look, it's crazy how I was talking about him and Aaron. And he wasn't even down here for that. He comes down here and started this conversation about him and his cousin philosophizing about stuff.
I'm just saying, you can ask Aaron about it. Aaron, he'll tell you the whole conversation. He probably can remember it.
I'm sure he can, but I don't want to start this. Y'all, if you start a conversation with y'all, I need to already go ahead and take into account this is going to be at least 3 hours. And sometimes I just don't have the time. All right, let's get back to this, y'all. Look. Let me just start this over. Yeah, page 759. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Iman. Okay, let's go back up to verse 3, right? Let me just start it over. Right? Because the wheel was down at 8, but listen. The light of the following truths will be manifest to him. Let him, on the other hand, shut himself up in denial, saying, I defy thee to prove the matter. He shall not be enlightened. In the testimony of Jehovah, speaking through us, and by the Spirit is man quickened. As man liveth on earth, acquiring perfections or imperfections in spirit, so will he enter the S world at death. Death is the severing knife which separateth the corporal man from the spiritual man. The former returneth to the earth, but the latter surviveth, and in time riseth upward. By death, man suffereth the loss of companionship of mortals, but is quickened and united with those he loved before. A new world is open to him, full of light and splendor, having a fitness to his spirit, even more gloriously and real than the corporal world was to his mortal part. As a corporal man requireth corporal food and clothes, with habitable place to dwell, so in like manner requireth his spirit, and is so provided within atmosphere, but spiritually. The first habitable place in S is on the earth, and near around the earth, and mostly within the same house wherein he dwelt in mortal form. But the spirit is subtle and moveth, but not as corporal things move, having power and presence with friends and kin at remote distances, as if all was in one place. For of such nature is the S world. Just like there's no distance in like prayer. It's like you can like be places immediately, right? Look, I'll tell him Shebrew. He already went back upstairs. Verse 9. Spirit existeth within corporea, and by this means are the dead enabled to manifest to the living. However, to such of the living who have no consciousness of their own spirit, the spirits of the dead cannot manifest intelligently. For a mortal to be conscious of his own spirit, it must transcend his corporal senses. He who knoweth not his own spirit is weak indeed. Such a man born into the spirit world is as a newborn child, knowing nothing. All men born into spirit life die imperfect and ignorant and weak, depending on nurses, guardians, and doctors. Many such are slain in war or in desperate madness, are born into spirit life in chaos. Some will not leave the battlefield, which is why you can go to battlefields like where we hear about wars and stuff, and it's a lot of spiritual activity. When we went, I don't know what I was when we went to Pearl Harbor, because there was, after being there at Pearl Harbor, and actually going to the site, the watery grave where bodies were, like there are bodies still resting in the ocean from Pearl Harbor. Some of the bodies, they were not able to be recovered. That is their final resting place, which is why that's a whole sacred site there. But then when I went there, there was like this sense of peace that was there that I did not expect to feel, right? And I'm just like, this is interesting. Because I remember I was like, I'm going to tell y'all how Pearl Harbor is, because that's like a battlefield, even though it's on the water. I was like, I'm going to tell y'all. And even when we got there, I asked them, one of the guards, he was really, really knowledgeable. And I was asking him after they got done with all their historical facts and all this stuff and what happened. When we was leaving, I just kind of went over, me and my husband. I said, I got a couple questions for you. I want to ask about some spiritual things regarding, this final resting place of these men. I said, have you ever felt any like spiritual happenings, like supernatural things kind of make your skin crawl? And when I asked the first question, I could tell he wasn't really spiritual. He said, I haven't personally. He said, but there are quite a few people that I know. He said that they get chills when they go to certain places. Now, when we got there, we didn't go to every place over there, right? We took the ferry out to the memorial because it's out there in the water. We took that out there, but we didn't get to go to the other like battleship and stuff because we got a tour, and the one that we had, we didn't even realize that it included that. But if I had just looked a little bit further, we would have got the whole thing. And then maybe he was saying some people say when they visit different portions of this, they feel like he said the hair on their skin like raises up. He said they feel something. I was like, because it's really interesting. I was like, I'm doing some spiritual research on some things, and I'm just kind of curious if y'all see or hear certain things happening over here. He said, I personally haven't. He said, but there are a few people that I know that have experienced some things when they go to different parts over here. And I was asking what parts were those, but we didn't have a chance to go over there, but the next time we go back, it's going to be about 2 years before we go back to Hawaii. And all the kids are going to go with us the next time. But it's going to be at least 2 years before we can get over there. And we're going to go back there and we're going to visit the other places. But it was really interesting because before we went out there on the water, there was a gentleman who works there who was the family member of somebody who had recently passed, who was a part of the Pearl Harbor happenings, right? So I'm still looking at a lot of stuff on Pearl Harbor, but what happened was, I know all of what we get and what they tell us, but some of the more personal stories, listen to that while we was waiting for our ferry, and he just kind of told us his background and who his family member was and the person from Japan that they had met, and when all of this happened, the day that Pearl Harbor had happened. What really happened, and I hope my video, but I'm gonna just say this, right? I so wish that I had my camera recording to record this guy as he was telling us their personal stories. Some people who were actually, well, they're dead now, but family members who just kind of share the stories that they would tell them on what happened that day, and becoming a friend with somebody from Japan. Because now, it's a memorial site where it's not just America that goes. Japan is invited because there was, and that's when I found it out outside. So maybe that's why there's this sense of peace here, right? Of course, they issued their apology and stuff, but what really happened was it was the slip of somebody's finger that actually started, and then it was just a spiral from there because the command had not actually come from Japan yet for their men to bomb Pearl Harbor, right? They was like looking into it, and really what happened, they wanted to take out the aircraft carriers, but the aircraft carriers that was flying over, the aircraft carriers had already left port, so where they were going, there were no, that's why there's no aircraft carriers. That's why you got the small boys that were bombed there. They weren't after them, right? But somebody, trigger finger, but they kind of covered it up. But knowing it's amazing the stories you hear from people who were actually involved and have real information, but the slip of the finger just kind of was just like a spiral and became this huge worldwide thing when it never should have happened, right? And so when things cease, apologies, all that, just we learned a lot of stuff. I'm like, wow, like Pearl Harbor should have never happened, but it was a young guy, anxious, from the Japan side, but those stories, they just kind of really cover up, right? So, but it was interesting. I was like, now I'm wondering why, and then looking at the memorial and looking at a little bit more how they came in Japan and all of this stuff. I'm just like, this is interesting, because I couldn't quite understand why there was such a peace. I expected more spiritual activity, especially because and I was just kind of like really prepared. I'm like, Father, I don't know, because this whole thing that's been happening with me, people that's been dead just been kind of showing up. I don't know why. They keep coming to me in my dreams. I don't know why they're attracted to me. So I was kind of antsy and a little on edge about going to Pearl Harbor in the first place. And I was completely surprised. Me and my husband was talking. I was like, I did not expect this. I really expected to be like, I prepared myself to be bombarded spiritually when we got there. But there was this overwhelming sense of peace. So much so that even the ferry ride over, there was a solemn peace, even amongst the ferry, where people were just like quiet. And that was the whole manner of everything. Even going over there was like this reverent silence that was just, it amazed me. And I'm just like, I don't quite understand, but understand a little bit more and making amends and thinking about what I learned in Oahspe about, how when it tell us about the knots, if you're leading a war and stuff, but it seems like there was an amends made spiritually. Guys, if y'all see this, just time them out or delete, report them. I'll report. You're going to have to do it a couple times before they block them all together. And just hit the pornography or sexually explicit material and just report. You probably have to do it 3 or 4 times until they automatically block them from the channel. Let me do this. And then we'll finish up this chapter, y'all. Probably should have been done. They wouldn't have had the time to come in here, but I just had to share them. Because I never shared what happened at Pearl Harbor when we went. Hey, they got trigger fingers. Report. Every time y'all see it, report them. Like I said, you got to do it like 3 or 4 times, and I know they're going to keep popping back in, but after about the 3rd or 4th time, they'll automatically block them from the channel. Just because there's so many back-to-back that block them, right? So it'll kind of bypass their YouTube's thing, and it'll let them know that, hey, this really shouldn't be here. Okay. I agree with that, Tickler. Every inch of land should be considered sacred ground due to the death and war of the ancestors. I'm just saying, I completely agree with that. Dana, y'all, okay, Dana said they went to Pearl Harbor. She said it was like that when we went too. There was little conversation. Yeah, that I didn't expect that, Okay, but let me go ahead and finish this, y'all. We was on page 759. Okay, let's do verse 10. I think it was verse 11. Let me go to 10. Okay, for a mortal to be conscious of his own spirit, it must transcend his corporal senses. He who knoweth not his own spirit is weak indeed. Such a man born into the spirit world is as a newborn child, knowing nothing. All men born into spirit life die imperfect and ignorant and weak, depending on nurses, guardians, and doctors. Many such are slain in war or in desperate madness, are born into spirit life in chaos. Some will not leave the battlefield. To the long-suffering and to the weary, who are upright of heart, death is a doorway to a world of bliss, of rest and love. To the captain and general, who were slayers of men, death is a doorway to them whence spring up to them ghastly wounds, and frenzied maniacs crying out for vengeance. And the slayers of men run away, but escape not. They cry out, but are mocked at. The wailing of the widows and orphans is an increasing horror to them. Their nose is suffocated, and their eyes appalled with gaping, bloody wounds. The leader of men entereth the S-world to meet an army of misled confidants, and his tricks and falsehoods are as garments soiled and spotted to hide a blackened heart. He turneth away, but the mirror of his past deeds hangeth up before him. The rich man entereth the S-world at the door of his bank. In the bank he tarrieth all day. At night he wandereth up and down. He meeteth another rich man. They shake hands, but speak not. Then he goeth forth. In the morning he is in the door of his bank again, and all day he loitereth around about. He worrieth at the manner of the clerks. He feareth his widow will come to want, or that his bank will soon run low. He seeth the glory of the spirit world, but he cannot enter it. The servants who washed his clothes stand fairer than he. Yea, he is abashed for the whiteness of their raiment and the light of their souls. And so he turneth and hideth in his bank again. People who died in bankers, this is what it's talking about, right? They are like some of these stories about haunted places. Yeah, it's the spirit of the people who were there, right? But lo, the spirit of him who is dead sucketh out the spirit of the wine, and leaveth him distracted still. Another dark chamber openeth. A dealer in wines is dead, one with a fashionable home, and wife and daughters high aspiring. Confronted in his stores with the spirits of such as died from his temptations, bleary-eyed and boisterous, they come to welcome the newly dead, and with atmosphere and potions sucked out of his plenteous barrels, greet him with rich applause. Then he flieth to his wife and daughters in his mansion richly furnished. But lo, the drunken sots and spirits, foul-smelling, fill his habitation. With terrible anger, but helpless, he beholdeth the spirits of pollution fondling his daughter's person, and his widow a fountain for their revelry. And yet the depth is not full. In a stately mansion, a woman of high caste is dead, and it was said she was blessed, because since not having borne children, ease and glory were at her command. And now, with curious mirth and some envy, the spirits of other women who were outcasts come to behold the newborn spirit of the leader of fashion. And as they turn about, nurses come with children born from her body and her spirit by abortion cast into heaven, even in Jehovah's face a curse. A curtain of black death that will not away choketh her. Yeah, so we remember, right? We read about women early on. I forget what book, but it talks about women who have had abortions and multiple abortions, that it follows you, right? People can look at you in the spirit realm, just like if you murder somebody, like that is literally a tag on your soul, right? It leaves a hole in your soul and your spirit. And people love the spirit. When you come in, you literally have those tags and marks on you from what you did here, right? And those who have abortions, it's the same thing. And there is a foul stench that follows women, right, that have abortions. Like, that's murder, right? And they can't get away from it. Hold on, let me go back. Let me read verse, and I didn't even finish the whole verse 18, but we're going to start it over. Yeah, and you still responsible for those children that you aborted, right? And they're there waiting on you. They're there. And yet the depth is not full. In a stately mansion, a woman of high caste is dead, and it was said she was blessed, because since not having borne children, ease and glory were at her command. And now, with curious mirth and some envy, the spirits of other women who were outcast come to behold the newborn spirit of the leader of fashion. And as they turn about, nurses come with children born from her body and her spirit by abortion. Like, the nurses is waiting on you. Oh, heifer, you thought you was getting away. They here bring naughty. Oh, come on. We got some attachments for you when you come. Listen, I'm sorry. I don't want to offend nobody by saying heifer. I'm sorry. Listen, hold on. And now, with curious mirth and some envy, the spirits of other women who were outcasts come to behold the newborn spirit of the leader of fashion. And as they turn about, nurses come with children born from her body and her spirit by abortion, cast into heaven, even in Jehovah's face accursed. A curtain of black death that will not away choketh her. To the left, the right, or up and down, there is nothing but there is nothing but the wail of sweet babes. Mother, why murderest thou me? Was I not Jehovah's gift? The woman of fashion hideth, but is not hidden. Even the soiled outcast are white beside her. Even the soiled outcast, the dirtiest of dirty, they look white standing next to her. Yo, listen. A curtain of black death that will not away choketh her. To the left, the right, or up and down, there is nothing but the wail of sweet babes. Mother, why murderest thou me? Was I not Jehovah's gift? The woman of fashion hideth, but is not hidden. Even the soiled outcast are white beside her. Like a woman that is crushed but cannot die, she squirmeth and writheth in the kingdom she built with her own hands. From the scene of horrors, now open ooze the door of the man of corporal learning. Now, let me just say something, right? I'm not exactly sure how this works for not intentional abortions, but medical procedures for life-saving. I'm sure we're still responsible for that child, right? Because I fall into that category, right? The doctor said that there was nothing that they could do. It was either, they said the baby couldn't be saved because I had an ectopic pregnancy, all right? They said because the baby, it burst my tubes, and we was like, where is there any way you can just take the baby and put it where it's supposed to be? They said, Miss Murphy, we do not have the technology to do that. They said, but if we don't get moving, you're not going to live much longer. And this was 2009, right? So they gave us a few minutes, but they didn't really give us a few minutes. They said, we're going to give you and Mr. Murphy 5 minutes. They said, but you need to go to surgery now because I was already bleeding internally. And those of you who've been here for a while, you heard like the whole story, right? They said, you need to choose. They really wasn't telling us we choose, but they want to make us feel like we had the option. At least talk about this, because there's no way possible with what we have now, the technology. We can't save the baby, but we can save you, and we are down to the wire, right? So I'm sure definitely we're still responsible for that baby, right? There was nothing we could do. And so I'm like, Father, I'm not even sure what this looks like. That's not something we wanted done, but because of circumstances being, it had to be done. Like, they were going to do it anyway, right? Because I was sedated. They put me out and they did it anyway, right? So there was nothing that I could do. So we still repented for it. I don't know, because maybe it was something that was going on with my body where I didn't properly take care of my body, which would cause that to happen. I still don't understand. So, like, for those things, I think it's different for us. Like, we don't feel torment. There's a sadness because a child was lost, but and all we do, we try to honor the memory, because if the baby could have been here, we would still have the baby here. And I'm gonna show y'all something. Hold on. So what we did to honor this child, so all the children know that there was another mini Murph that should have been here, because not we got this made, right? In honor of the child who was lost. And we keep it right out front on our bookcase, and people ask about it. We talk about it. We share the story, right? You know, things with this, it was beyond our control, right? So in memory of our precious baby, and we got the date, March 1st, 2009, right? And it's like little footprints with a scripture. So let me put it back because I'm getting teary-eyed. Give me a moment. Okay, so, but I think it's a little bit different. I do believe we're still responsible for the child. I still think the child, you know, from time to time, because I constantly dream about this little baby at times, and I mentioned it before. I wonder if that's the child that I see, like always with me. I'm just like, what baby is this that's supposed to be born? I'm seeing this child, but I wonder if that's the baby, right? So I'm still not 100% sure, or if it's a baby that's to come. But the child be talking and everything, and pay attention to this, mom. And I'm just like I know the child, but it's like I be wondering, like, who is you? I be wondering, but in my dreams, like I'm aware of it. I just don't ask the baby because I feel like I should know. And I don't know. I just haven't asked, but I be wondering, I be looking, and it don't seem like it bothered the baby none, right? Just be hanging out, you know, and I'm just like, well, okay, you know, but yeah, I think it's, we're still responsible, but, I don't think when we pass and when we actually die, I think the interaction with things like that, hold on, I think it's different. Like, it's like, I'm glad you finally get here. Let's go on and grow together. I think it's more like that, to whereas others, like the babies, is like you're like born in the spirit with a hole in your soul. I think during like the time of life of those who like actually repent or whatever the case is, healed, I don't think we, at least from my understanding, I don't think we're born into the spirit, or I don't think we die with that particular hole on our soul or counted against us. I think it's healed, and it's just a continual healing process. I believe that's what I feel, right? I won't actually know until I go and get there, right? Okay, thanks, sister. She said, Book of Divinity, chapter 3. Oh, that was within the, okay, I'm going to put this down too. Verses 14 and 15. Okay. All right, y'all. So let's get moving. I ain't going to read this verse over again. Okay, 19. From the scene of horrors, now open oozed the door of the man of corporal learning. His spirit wandered in libraries and ancient tombs and hieroglyphs, and sighs over problems never solved. Day by day, night by night, he restlessly peered into the same paths, and over, burrowed deep in darkness. Stripling youths and fairies pull his wig or upturn his spectacles, saying, O fool, knowest thou art dead? Turn from these corporal tombs and behold Jehovah's light, and behold great Jehovah's light. In sorrow and pity, he regardeth them, saying, I am not dead. When I am dead, there is an end. But I am sick, still dwelling in my corporal body. And then he wandereth on, a living sepulchre. Oh, we got 40 verses, y'all. We're on 20. We almost done. A farmer is dead. It was his wont to rise early and toil all day, to ponder much on the fruit of his labor and to glory in his freedom. For himself and his family he lived. To himself and his family Jehovah giveth him. In his house and his fields his spirit walketh about. He knoweth no heaven or hell. As a weed that is worthless to itself and the world, so is his spirit. And as the weed knoweth the field that bore it forth, neither doth he know Jehovah's heaven, nor can he go but from field to field and back to his house day and night. He liveth for nothing higher, and Jehovah gave him that which he desired. What spirit is this that glutted itself in the slaughterhouse? He was a gourmandizer. He is dead. He goeth from saloon to saloon, snuffing the air of roasted viands and fat meats and of wines. The smell of food to the fat man is his delight. And the woman that rejoiceth in sin, rare flesh and fat soups, is a cushion for him to roll upon. One saith, I never come into this saloon, but I recollect him that is dead. He so loved this place. And the other saith, I believe his spirit loitereth here still, else why do we oft so think of him? And thereupon they gorge themselves, even whilst the spirit of the dead feedeth on the atmospherian part. This is all the heaven he sought on earth, and Jehovah gave it to him. Cheesy, peace. Listen, Key. Look, it was funny. You know, the other night when we was on doing a video with the women, and my husband, he was there the whole time. But yesterday was funny. He said, babe, because, you know, he's in his process, transitioning from meat. Some days he okay, some days he not. He's like, man, I don't know. He said, but matter of fact, when he heard you say it, he just said, animal sandwiches. It hit him a whole different way from when I be talking to him. I was like, nah, I know I done said that a couple times. He must not have really been listening. But when you said it, it hit him deep down in his sha-na-na somewhere where it won't let him go. And yesterday, when we was going to bed, he was like, man, he said, babe, for real? He said, I think I really need to really take a break from meat. He said, I'm just, maybe for like 30 days or something, just, you know. He said, because I can't get out of my head what that girl said. He said, every time I look at meat, I hear her voice saying animal sandwiches. And I was cracking up. It was so funny. He said, I'm serious. He said, I never looked at it that way. And he said, it's just, this animal sandwiches. Listen, look, yeah, it's something done. Like he really needed to hear it from somebody else, right? Look, it was crazy, but it really did. I never seen him contemplate a matter like that when it comes to him correcting himself. He said, animal sandwiches. You should have seen his face when he did that, like he was really trying to think about what was said, like it was profound. He said, animal sandwiches. Y'all had to be there to see it. Listen, okay. Verse 22, look. And now cometh confusion in heaven. He that forever argued is dead. Scarce newborn in spirit life. Scarce newborn in spirit life, he setteth up to prove his position and enlighten all the world. The curious and the idler gathereth around to hear his speech again. He striveth to show that all the world is a fool. In endless ways he turneth his argument and repeateth them over day by day, night by night. This was what he strove to build on earth, and Jehovah gave him the same. And here, newborn in spirit, is the moderate man, who by industry earned a handsome house and raised up sons and daughters credible to the state. He is in his home still. Heaven is too narrow for him. He saith, I would argue with Jehovah that I have not my share of heaven. Did I not give alms daily, the poor man a crust, and a poor woman a penny? When did I pass a blind man and not give? But none answered him. It is as if not talking to the wind. Again and again he repeateth his complaint, but none take him by the hand, and he remaineth helplessly in his own home, which he asked Jehovah to help him build for his heirs. Wow. The recluse, with a new philosophy and scheme of diet, but aimless and of little producing to benefit anything under the sun, is dead. The breath of mortals was poison to him, and all human influence to be avoided as poison, infecting his most holy spirit. Here again gathereth nymphs and fairies to see his spirit make its Etherean flight. As mortals gather around a pretender that promises to sail a balloon around the world, so gathered these jocose and mischief-loving spirits in the house of the recluse to see his promised ascent. He would show them how the higher spheres in heaven are reached, but he would not deign, even in mortal life, to commune with the spirits of the dead. None so low for him. But now he is dead, and his spirit limps and trembles in his hovel still boasting. And as he produced nothing in the corporal world, so produceth he nothing still, but boasteth and secludeth, and boasteth. And this is his heaven, day and night. Jesus, peace. The light of Jehovah toucheth on the earth, and the heavens above were stirred to the foundation. Things past were moved forward. His voice was from the depth of darkness to the summit of all light. The nations that had not known him now knew him. Acceptable, and with loud rejoicings they shouted, Jehovah, Jehovah, Almighty, everlasting. Glory be to thee on high, Creator, Father. All praise to thee forever. And Jehovah went far and near swiftly, quickening with a new power both the living and the dead. And the peoples upraised and heard his voice from every corner, calling, come forth, O my beloved. And it was not like any sound under the sun, for it reacheth deep into the souls of men, or deep down in your shanana. We almost done, y'all. Verse 28 is 40 verses. And in the stirring up of things long past, it was as if a cloud of dust and darkness, foul and poisonous, overspread heaven and earth, was to be cleared away to make room for the immortal kingdom. High above the clouds and deep down in all the blackness, the all light of great Jehovah shone as the everlasting sun. The faith of men and angels rose up in increasing assurance to the Most High, that he, in all his matchless majesty alone, would rise triumphant over all. Jehovah said, bring forth the legions of earth and heaven. Summon up the dead. Let the living rejoice. My kingdom is at hand. And the dead came forth as if out of their graves, but clothed in the raiment of heaven. And they walked upon the earth. Yea, face to face, talked with the living, proclaiming the fullness of Jehovah and his everlasting kingdoms. Little infants that were long dead returned to the living, full grown in heaven, singing in Jehovah's praise. Mothers returned from the unseen world with love and angel kisses for their mortal babies and sorrow-stricken husbands. This is good. Then rose the cloud of darkness, higher and higher and higher. The poisonous smell and damnable tricks of Hades belched forth in blackness terrible. The spirit of those slain in war, delirious, mad, and died in vengeance, and those whose earth lives had bound them in torments, and those who lived on earth to glut themselves to the full in arborant lust, came assuming the names of gods and saviors. And yet the voice of Jehovah called, bring forth the legions of earth and heaven. Summon up the dead. Let the living rejoice. My kingdom is at hand. And now the cloud reacheth all around the earth. Almost was the light of Jehovah obscured. Still the faith of angels and mortals rose up in one increasing voice. Jehovah is mighty. I know he will prevail. And still the black giant arose, awful in gloom and blood-stained mantle, till the earth around became as a solemn night before the battle of death, rattling bones and empty skulls, with gnashing teeth, all stained with human gore, made hideous by the portentous omen, caused angels and men to stand appalled. Jehovah said, bring forth the legions of the earth and heaven. Summon up the dead. Let the living rejoice. My kingdom is at hand. And now, as the cloud of darkness stretched up out of the earth, girding it all around, as a venomous reptile secureth his living food, lo and behold, the monster beast stretched forth 4 heads with flaming nostrils, all on fire. On each head were 2 horns, blood-stained and fresh with human victims flesh macerated. Their tongues darted forth in menace, and their open mouths watered for human souls, and like suspicion mad, and much distrusted, their bloodshot eyes pierced the foul darkness, making many a mortal quake in fear. And still the upraised of the earth and heaven with one voice cried out, All hail Jehovah, thou art mighty, thou alone shalt prevail. And Jehovah answered to his faithful sons and daughters, the living and the dead, bring forth the legions of the earth and heaven, summon up the dead, let the living rejoice, my kingdom is at hand. This chapter was amazing to me. All right, beautiful people, that is it. Oh my gosh, I did not realize we were going to go this long. I did not think it would take so long to read this one chapter, which I probably should have foresaw that, seeing that the first few chapters, it took me a day. Like, the reading was just one chapter, and we tried to squeeze in 2, and it took us to 2 hours. All right, beautiful people, that is it. Nazarenes, sing, shalom. All right, y'all, we got to get going. It is Thursday, October the 27th, 2022, day 247 of year 4, reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1266. We are still reading the book of knowledge in Oahspe. We started on page 757, and we paused on page 761, and that was chapter 5 and 6. Father, we thank you that your designs are unmatched. All right, beautiful people. Be blessed. Be blessed. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. I don't think there were any questions. You're welcome, Angelique. Let you know when you get the message. Okay. I'll check them in a few minutes. Okay. I think that's it. Now I kind of scanned through. I don't think there were any other questions. All right, y'all. So that's it. Let me tell Bella. Bella, come on about the end, girl. All right, y'all, so I am going to share. Give me a few minutes. I'm going to share that stuff about Dr. Lauren Lockman. I'm going to share his channel. And I'm going to try to find that video with his broken leg so you can just hop right to that. And how he healed it by fasting. I think that was like one of his 30-minute videos. I'll try and go in and find a minute mark, but give me some time. I may not even be able to post it till later because I'm already way over my time, but I'm gonna post that today. Dr. Lauren Lockman, Dr. Mindy Pelez, and that's about the fasting. Also, these portions in the Book of Divinity. And thank y'all for sharing the sections of the book with me so I can post it. Tickler, say hey, Tootie. Hi. Okay. What? All right, y'all. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early. 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I love y'all. Peace. Yes, sir. What's my name? What name? You can take me to the. You can take me to the doctor. Hey, Bella. Angelique, say hey, Bella. Hi.